Well, I didn't think injuries could get worse before the weekend, but it absolutely did. And the carnage, there's absolute carnage. I don't think we've seen anything like this. David Fifita, his contract signing saga is all over the place. 1 minute he's going into the Panthers, the next day, out of nowhere, he's going to the Roosters. And then a few days later, that's all over as well, and he's back with the Titans. As long, from my point of view, as long as he ends up where he wants to be, that's all that matters. And he didn't sign anything, I don't believe. Kalen Ponga, something's going on there. There's not much. There's no point talking about it. There's obviously lots to talk about, but we may as well wait and see what happens in the wash. What all comes out in the wash. Refereeing and the rules. Yeah, don't get me started. It's just absolutely disgraceful inconsistencies. The rules, the interpretation of them. Harry Grant's sin bin, which would have technically have cost the Storm that game, was just ridiculous. And is the on-field ref doing anything these days? Everything seems to be going upstairs. But anyway, let's get on with the show. We're here to talk about the Magic Round, round 11 for the NRL. One day I'd love to get there. It must be a hell of a weekend. So my tips and picks for round 11. Let's get started at the top. No Thursday night game, because it's all congested up there at Suncorp. First game on Friday is the Raiders versus the Bulldogs. So we've got Raiders 7th, Bulldogs 9th. Pretty close on the ladder, of course. Jordan Rapana is back at fullback for the Raiders instead of Albert Hopewade, and really was the only selection of note for both teams. Difficult to know which way this one's going to go. Raiders have just had their bye, but before that they had a spirited win against the Seagulls away from home with pretty young backline in particular, certainly the spine. Don't forget Elliot Whitehead's performance, and he's obviously playing again. Bulldogs will take a lot of confidence away from competing with the Panthers on the weekend. Raiders still have a very inexperienced halves, but that could go in their favour as these playmakers will unlikely be afraid to have a go. They'll be encouraged to do so, I'm sure. The forward battle should go the way of the Raiders, I would think, although the Raiders haven't really been performing to their full capacity. The Bulldogs are favourites, and it's at a neutral ground. I think the Bulldogs will win in a close one, because I just think Matt Burton is finding some good form leading into Origin. I think it's going to be a pretty tight matchup across the park in terms of the players, but just having that slightly more experience in the halves for the Bulldogs should see them there, but I think it will be a close one. Bulldogs 1-12. Next game, the second game on Friday, Seagulls versus the Broncos. Seagulls are in 8th position, still in the top 8 at the moment. Broncos 6th. The biggest team news, of course, is Tommy Turbo. He's out, and his replacement is Kohler, who will start at fullback. He can more than hold his own in that position and has experience there, NRL experience there. No sign of Lachlan Croker yet. He missed last week due to concussion protocols, but is still missing this week. Carl Lawton keeps his starting spot. Ola Kawatu is back from his suspension for the Seagulls. Jock Madden returns at 7 for the Broncos, and Billy Walters is out, so Tyson Smoothy gets a chance to start at hooker. Martin Tapau in the reserves. It wasn't that many seasons ago where he was starting prop for the Seagulls. Going to the Broncos, he was always going to struggle to get game time, but he's not even in the 17, not looking close at the moment. Not a home game for the Broncos, but it does work out that way, of course. I always feel sorry for the teams that have to play against the Broncos or, the Dolphins and this weekend as well. But yeah, technically it works out to be that whoever plays against them misses out on their home game. But anyway, Seagulls lost in a close one to the Dolphins and Raiders before last week, and then losing Turbo doesn't help, that's for real. Broncos were able to win comfortably against the Eels in the wet last round and have managed to manage pretty well without Adam Reynolds. Let's be fair. I think the Broncos forwards will be too strong, and the Seagulls haven't been able to put in an 80-minute performance, and you'd have to do that against the Broncos at home, even with Adam Reynolds out. But yes, the Broncos at home. I think Seagulls will lose 3 in a row here, and they'll drop out of the top 8 if the Bulldogs can get up against the Raiders. So Broncos 13 plus. I actually think they'll win reasonably comfortably, but let's see. Titans versus Knights. Titans way down at 16th place. Knights are at 10th. They're knocking on the door for the top 8, but those poor Titans, they've lost all 3 of their starting halves, Brimpson, Kieran, Foran, and of course Tanner Boyd was out. He was out last week, but they've named both hookers to play in the halves, but expect maybe that to change just before kickoff. Philip Sami and Harley Smith-Shields are also out. Jack Cogger comes back into the Knights starting side for Tyson Gamble, who's out. He injured his foot. Jacob and Daniel Saifidi swap after Daniel got suspended, and Jacob's coming back from injury. David Armstrong had a head knock last week, but he's been named to play fullback. He's a key man. So unfortunate for the Titans, of course, who had their best game of the season last weekend to beat the Cowboys and look like they could threaten teams higher than them on the ladder. But just can't see the Titans winning this one without 2 of their halves, 2 of their best players in terms of Brimpson and Foran, and all their other injuries. So yeah, got to be Knights 13 plus, but we'll see. Titans will get some fans up to Suncorp, you'd imagine. Sharks and Roosters. Sharks are obviously at the top. Roosters are 5th at the moment on the table. Nico Hines has been named after missing the Sharks win against the Storm, but he is it's a touch and go scenario for him. Interestingly, Braden Trindle has been named in the reserves, but because I was led to believe that nothing was going to happen there. He was certainly not going to be playing until they knew until the court hearing, and certainly Daniel Atkinson deserves a spot after a great performance against the Sharks. Absolutely no question there. Less happening at the Roosters in terms of personnel this week after they had about 4 or 5 changes last week. Brandon Smith returns, and that's about it. The Roosters are they're pretty strong favourites, which I guess it does make some sense. They scored 24 tries against the Dragons, Broncos and Warriors, so 24 tries in 3 games. But I think the Sharks are just so hard to tip against at the moment, and certainly put other teams on notice after last weekend's win against the Storm. It'll be a great forward battle. No doubt. Sharks dominated the Storm pack. Both backlines are pretty even, but would have to give the Roosters the slight edge, although Joey Manu is a big loss, so I think that evens things up. Hines is really key, and still unsure, so that could be the deciding factor. Line is only 3.5, so it should be pretty close. I agree with that. I don't expect the Roosters to get away with scoring as much as recent weeks against the best defensive side in the NRL too. So I think it'll be a close one. I'm going to lean towards Sharks 1-12 if Nico plays, so it's really hinging on that. Roosters 1-12 if he doesn't. I think he is pretty much a pivotal scenario there. But as it stands, with Nico named, let's go Sharks 1-12. Rabbitohs versus Cowboys. Rabbitohs last place in 17th. Cowboys at 12th. I think Alex Johnston is back for the Rabbitohs, which is quite a big in for them. Certainly helps, of course, being a key man for the Bunnies' left edge there, working well. He always works well with Cody Walker, and hopefully can connect with Whiten. I don't know if they've lined up together yet, although Whiten should really be 5/8, shouldn't he, and Walker at half. I'd love to see that. And for the Cowboys, they do also have a winger returning. Murray Tuolangi returns, which means Semi Valemei drops out. So the Cowboys have lost 5 in a row now. Their last one was against the Titans, ironically, losing to them on the last weekend. Rabbitohs are struggling all over the park. It's hard to see that changing, but they do have class in the team, of course, if they can all click together. Without Cam Murray, though, I think that gives the Cowboys forwards the advantage, and I'm certainly expecting Scott Drinkwater to bounce back after a pretty quiet weekend, pretty quiet game last weekend. So yeah, look, the Cowboys have been losing games, of course, but pretty not far away. I think 2 weeks ago they lost to the Dolphins by 4 or 6 points, or a try. converted try, and they could have beaten the Titans last weekend. So they're not far away. I feel like this weekend they'll bounce back, but who knows? Rabbitohs got to win a game at some point, don't they? But I will go Cowboys 1-12. Warriors versus Panthers. Warriors struggling down at 14th place. Panthers up there at number 2. They just edged ahead of the Storm on points differential at the moment, but poor Warriors. Wow, if you thought it couldn't get worse, well, it certainly has. Absolutely has. Sean Johnson, pretty much their key man. He's out till round 14, so he's going to miss a few weeks with a pec injury. Bit of a shuffle means Charles Clockstead actually starts at 5'8", and Tane Tuapiki starts at fullback. Marcelo Montoya is back on the wing after just having 1 week off. Adam Pompey starts again at centre for Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, and young fella Ali Lauatua is centre for Rocco Berry, who's out. Not sure what, didn't get that far, sorry, but Jazz Tavanga's playing, or he's back, which is probably about a week earlier than we were expecting. Rocco Berry, Kirk Capewell, Chanel Harris-Tavita, Sean Johnson, Marata Niokore, all back round 14. So, I mean, it's actually absolutely torture for the Warriors with how many injuries they've got, but they've got to get through a few weeks, and hopefully things can turn around. Look, I think the most disappointing thing for the Warriors this year has been their defensive performance. It's way less than last year, and they've had a lot of injuries, a lot of players coming in and out, but look, that part shouldn't matter for the defence. So they just haven't performed in that space, and I think that's a key for Andrew Webster, isn't it? But so look, Isaac Tango is back from suspension for the Panthers. So that helps them. Of course, Nathan Cleary, he's out until round 19. He's out for another 8 rounds or so. So Jack Cole gets named in the halves, but look, I wouldn't get carried away if you were looking to pick him up in fantasy. I think Brad Schneider, he'll be back at some point. I mean, they're not telling us how long he's out for, but I'd be pretty careful there. What's left to talk about, honestly? I mean, in terms of the result, I think it's reasonably predictable the Warriors will win this easily, won't they? No. The Warriors, Panthers. But yeah, look, I think for the Warriors side of things, they'll want to work on their defence. I think they just need to simplify things a little bit. Attack, that can come. I mean, they're going to have to try things, but certainly they've got to just it doesn't matter what players are on the field, they need to start working on their defence. So, of course, Panthers 13 plus. You won't get much money for that, I'd imagine. Anyway, Storm currently third, as I was saying before. Last 2 games of the round. I think there's 3 games on Sunday. Last 2 games of the round. Storm 3. They're at 3rd spot in the ladder. Eels 13th spot in the ladder. Eels have really been struggling. No changes for the Storm, so that's pretty convenient for them. They did play pretty well without Paps and of course Jerome Hughes. Only change for the Eels is Dejan RC. He returns at 5'8" for Ethan Sanders. Ethan Sanders is out, but RC was injured after he was injured the last time he started 5'8", and that was probably the best the Eels have looked for before since Mitchell Moses got injured. Mitchell Moses must be back next week. People were sort of expecting him back this week. Storm played well without Paps and Hughes, of course, narrowly missing out against the Sharks. So, yeah, Storm always a tough team to beat. It doesn't matter what, but that's what I'm talking about for the Warriors. So the Storm, doesn't matter what players are coming and going, but good class sides like that always have good, their defence is still the key to them. But yep, and to be fair to the Storm, the depth with Fa'alonga at fullback and Wishart at 5, he'll be 5'8" or half, but whatever, in the halves for Jerome Hughes. They've got pretty solid depth there. Eels are not the same team without Gutherson and Moses, of course, but it'll be good to see more of Blaze Talangi. So looking forward to the future for them, and seems a pretty straightforward result. This one again, the Storm 13 plus. Last game of the round, Tigers, they're ranked 15th. Dolphins 4th. Yeah, Isaiah Papali'i's out suspended, I think just for the one game. John Bateman's out for 8 to 10 weeks. So that's sort of their whole back row there, or the whole edge set up. So Alex Seyfarth and Alex Twell replace them. Stafford Toa is also out, so Solomon Alamano comes back in on the wing. What does that mean? Naden or someone moves in. Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, he's finally back at fullback for the Dolphins, which does unfortunately mean that Trey Fuller is out. We won't see him for a little while, although we'd like to, expect to see him through Origin. Max Plath, who I only just bought in my fantasy team last week, is out due to concussion. I wondered why his minutes were a little bit less. I'm hoping it was because of the concussion, not because there's a few forwards coming back for the Dolphins, but that's a different story. And Kenny Bromwich will start at lock instead of Max Plath. Dolphins technically can treat this one as a home game, of course. They play a lot of their home games, or a number of the home games at Suncorp. Dolphins are also coming off a couple of good wins, pretty close, but good morale-boosting wins and confidence-boosting wins, while the Tigers have 5 losses in a row. Dolphins look better across the park. You just can't see the Tigers finding a way to sort of get themselves in a position to win this one at all. Dolphins 13 plus. So I feel like there's quite a number of one-sided affairs this week. However, I'm sure it'll be still some really good footy. Please do enjoy. And if you have been watching, listening, thanks. Well done. Good effort. Appreciate it. Leave a like, or certainly leave me make some comments on who you think's going to win or where I've gone wrong. Be great to hear from you. Thanks.